No, we can do that.
Yeah. If you could send me one, and then I'll put it in there.
Mr. Dave, what is this again?
Moringa.
Moringa. Thank you very much. I appreciate this greatly. So what?
Hey, you want to be at the show, right?
Hey, Ralph.
Yeah.
Barber's Bloomers, right?
All right, everybody, the program is here.
I'm going to try and...
No shopping, no talking, no socializing. Michelle. Oh, here. If you're staying, you gotta be over here. And you have to be quiet.
What kind of rock are you going to get?
Curtin Alice Church.
Church.
You have to be quiet.
I wasn't talking, she was.
Hey.
No violence. Why are you hitting it there?
Oh,
Yeah, tell us what you're doing and what tools you are using.
this is a beach tool for Florida. You wear it in your Speedos when you go to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
This is a base of a moose antler. Oh my God. And this is called napping. And the big palm came out from here. And it was a large palm. But this comes out of the skull. And so this is the hardest part of the antler. And when you use this, you don't prepare it the same way you do with copper. You find a platform and you use a soft abrading stone and you just lightly abrade it. But when you're using copper, you've got to scrub it down. But when you're using the antler, it doesn't take as much to take it off. And if you scrub it down real hard, then you got to revert back to either a piece of rock or copper. But you're looking for a platform here and a platform here. And this rock has an imaginary center line running through it. And what we're trying to do is, since this side is already flat, I'm trying to take the hump off of this side. Now I have to revert to copper because that's what I learned with. But I'm demonstrating napping for people that have never seen it.
What is the rock?
Just
No, not that one, the other.
This is chert from Texas. This is a sandstone, and you use it, and or you can use a round cobble, depending on how small you want it.
What do you mean by scrubbing it down?
You scrub it like this here to reinforce your platform. And like I say, if that doesn't work, then I'll revert to copper. But since this side's flat, what I want to do is take this big hump off of this side here. And like I say, there's an imaginary line in here, and it runs right down the middle of this rock. And this line is below the center line. And so what I'm trying to do here is take this off and get my work platform back up here. And these flat spots are what you call work platforms. and you nibble away when it's not where you want it to be, you nibble away to bring it up more. And like I say, if I'm not very good at this, so I can demonstrate it, but that's about the extent of it.
How long have you been doing this?
About 15 years.
What made you get started?
2000 something.
What made you get started doing it? Like, why did you become
because-
interested?
What got me interested in it is I couldn't find an arrowhead. I'm not a very patient person. And then it became illegal, so I started making my own.
That makes sense.
It is illegal to pick up artifacts off of public property or state property. You can pick them up off of private property with written permission.
Who taught you?
I've learned from going to what they call nap-ins and picking up from other nappers and buying videos. And I would like to say that Claude Van Order taught me, but Claude can't teach me anything. Claude can nap anything, a piece of cement. But I can't learn from Claude. I don't know why, just can't. But he can make any arrowhead out of any material. He's been doing it since he was 16 years old.
Does that bruise your leg? How's that feel when you do that?
Well, you're supposed to hit the rock and not your leg.
I know, but it looks like it's painful. I'm just curious of whether or not, you know.
Well, that's why I've got 3 layers of leather here.
Okay.
And this is hard leather. So,
What are you making? What's your goal on this one?
I would like to make a large blade, but I'll take whatever I can get. But that's where all of these flakes are not waste flakes. These can be made into knives. They can, you can use them to cut things with. Well, maybe. Sometimes. But they're not all waste flakes is what I'm trying to say here. That's where we go to copper. Copper's harder and it's got some lead in it. And you can reinforce your platform. And like I say, there's an imaginary line running through this rock. And right now, this imaginary line is on this side, right here. You can see the hump. So I'm going to take and scrub this down a little bit. When I say scrub, that's reinforce that. You get rid of all the little chatter and you reinforce that area. And what I'd like to hit is right here and drive this across. And that took out most of that hump. And that's what I was striving for. I don't always get what I want, but you know, you gotta try.
I missed, what kind of rock is that?
Church from Texas. And when you don't have the platform that you want, sometimes what you do is you nibble, like I say, it's called anviling or nibbling. You go like this here, and that will raise that platform up to the side that you want it. And then when you get to that raised platform, you scrub it down, you're getting rid of any chatter or loose chert, and you reinforce that platform, and you have to support it on this leather, and it allows the chert to give. And you took that big hump off of there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working on. We want to thin this out so that, like you said, what am I striving for? I'd like to have a long blade, but if I don't get it, I'll settle for an arrowhead. And what I did there was I took short flakes, because like I said, this side is basically flat. And so what we want to do is keep taking this hump off here. Now these are the flakes that I was trying to show just a moment ago that are not waste flakes, and the other one wasn't cooperating. Hopefully this will. And you can hang on to these, and you can use them to skin things with.
Oh, yeah. Look at that, that's sharp.
It'll cut you a lot easier than it will this piece of leather. So you can use that to skin out an animal or fish, whatever. Or make an arrowhead to kill something with. Okay.
Do you have any history on it, Dave?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any history on like how man managed to come about doing that sort of thing? Because
Well, it goes
It's
back
difficult.
40,000 years.
but it was so difficult that, you wonder how
Well,
you discovered how to do it.
when you grew up with it, when you grew up watching this, and it was part of your life, you just didn't. People that showed a tendency to learn it, they were taught.
Yeah, but remember, they would find a rock that they had broken naturally and say, whoa, this is tough, I can cut with this. And that probably started the ball rolling.
Well, it's like who made soap? Seriously. And like you said, there was a sharp rock there.
looked at it and they tried to copy it, probably.
Well, you would find a shard, and human beings were not stupid. That's what we have brains for. We were scavengers to start with, but when you cut yourself with something, and that's where all the brown spots on my leather comes from. When they would cut themselves on something, they say, "Oh, that's sharp. I can use that to cut something with." And like I say, we've got brains for a reason. And I always tell people that we were given a brain. Everybody's got enough brains to tan their own skin. Every creature, everybody. And so it's through elimination. Like I say, who invented soap? How did that come about?
The Babylonians. I just looked it up.
Oh my goodness.
You looked it up.
But they'll also.
It sounded good.
It was in the 2800 BC. It's been
In
around for a while.
archaeological sites, they'll find a rock and they'll say, in a community or something, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, this is a Canaan cut rock. This is not a natural rock." And so something that's as rough as what he has could be a finished stone to a Neanderthal rock, you know?
Yeah, I started looking at other rocks that I was coming into with collections and realizing I'd take them to like Dave and other people and they would say, that's a tool. And to me, it just looks like a rock with sharp edges, but it was a tool. Remember some of those pieces I brought you?
She's too Google-eyed.
Is this moonstone?
No, that's opalized glass.
Oh, okay.
It's made in China, and it looks like opal, but it's opalized glass.
So you use some of this stuff around the house? Oh, I see.
I use it to come over and cut Mark's bass pond one.
This is pretty cool.
What is this, pickle jar?
This is like. This is obsidian, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So how close are you now?
I'm within 30 minutes.
No, I mean, okay, I didn't mean that. I meant. For a blade, right?
For a blade, yes.
Okay.
Not for a point, but for a blade. But it's pretty close to being finished for. This is what they call a biface. And the reason you call it a biface is because it's worked on both sides. If it was only worked on one side, it would be called a uniface. And so they've got different terminologies for it. This is the distal end, and I forget what the other end is. But the thing of it is you try to get it as thin as possible, and then you start your flaking process. And we're pretty close to starting to flake it. It has to be thinned a little bit more. And then once you get it thinned down to where you want it, then like I say, you start your flaking process. And different types of blades or points had different thicknesses and widths to them, and you have to read up about that. They've got books on it, and so that's what we try to do when we do this kind of stuff. Is we try to get the book and copy the type of point that we're making.
So did women ever make them?
Yes, ma'am. There's one or two female nappers out there that are extremely good. There's not a whole bunch of them. I don't know why, but there isn't.
Claude's kid doesn't have her nap? Claude's daughter.
No,
No?
no.
I thought she did.
Neither one of them naps. Amber or,
I knew Amber did.
yeah. Hannah's never been interested in napping, but she's an artist in her own right. But Amber tried for a while, and she couldn't take the, I don't know, guys teasing her or whatever.
She should have made a knife and cut her.
But Hannah has never bothered Hannah. You know, she's got to come back for everything. She's normally quiet and reserved, but if you get her riled up, she don't have a problem with standing on her own two feet.
That almost looks like a spear tip now.
Yeah, or a knife blade. And people think a lot of pieces that were this long that were all spear tips, but they weren't necessarily. A lot of them were just knife blades.
Could you like hold it for a second so we see what it looks like a little bit? Wow, look at that.
Now, when you say knife blade, I'm thinking of a knife, but that's
Yeah.
not a regular knife
Yeah.
we use.
You thin up the base here,
Okay.
and then you would put a handle on it, either
Okay, but it
bone
looks
or
so
wood.
fat. I mean,
Say again, please.
It looks fat.
Oh, it is. That's why you have to thin up the base.
Oh, you haven't thinned it up yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
I've been thinning up the front and the
Okay.
sides. But you got to thin that. That's why a lot of times you'll see the bases are really thin, so that they'll fit in to the sockets.
From what it looked like when you started. It's very sharp. Sitting in a church, very sharp. For a reason. You gotta be a hunter.
Does anybody know what they call, in a native language, vegetarian? How that translates?
No, but let's.
I'll bet you do.
He can't hunt.
Poor hunter. And the translation for Iroquois is bark eaters.
Bark here?
Bark eaters.
Oh, eaters.
Because they eat the inside bark of the pines when times were hard. And so they became known as bark eaters.
It tastes terrible.
No, not if you fix it properly.
You wouldn't know, right?
We've tried it many times, I can't get it to taste right at all.
Well, you gotta boil it and work it out.
And
It's a yellow pine.
Anytime.
Any pine?
I don't know. Can't find seeds right now.
They keep raising the price for groceries, we'll all be out there
Yeah.
tomorrow, won't we?
My mom ate dandelion greens instead of the.
again,
Hey, that's good.
I mean, I was raised in West Virginia, you eat everything. Nothing we don't eat.
Now that's where the spear will go,
Yeah, the handle.
the handle.
Yeah.
You cut yourself anytime? You just did.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Just pinky shaded.
Now what did that do, that little,
That releases this nipple right here. That's called a nipple. And you reinforce that.
How long did it take you to learn to do that?
About 20 years.
At all?
Yeah. Well, I'm a slow learner. I'm worse than Mark.
it's okay, we understand.
And I will pick something up and then I will lay it down. And that's called fluting.
How big
Oh
of a
my
flute?
goodness.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Let me see the flute, tilt it up. No, the blade. No,
So
turn
you
it to
did
me.
that on purpose.
And tilt, I wanna see, yeah, there you go.
Piece of cake.
And that's called fluting, and that's how you, one of the ways you thin the base.
And you wrap that up and hit it, right?
Well, you have to reinforce it and to protect your hands also.
That's what the closest people were known for.
Yeah, can you put a closed flute on there?
That's like
We'd like to see one of those 3-inchers up there that's a quarter of an inch wide.
Well, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they made a jig.
Most guys do. You don't want to. You don't want to put all this work in there and then break it.
Yeah.
So most guys do what they call jigging. They've got they'll set that nipple up, and then they will put it in their jig and bring it down.
What's that square thing called?
A hand pad.
Okay, that was technical.
It's Adobe.
Now, when I'm pressing these flakes down, I'm pressing them to either side, so that releases that channel, and it allows that center flake to release a little easier. If you don't make these little flakes on each side, then chances are that this here will not release at all. Now this is off to one side, so chances are when I hit it, it's gonna drive off to one side. You should have it more to the center. And I found from experience, Mark, you should hold it out on your knee.
I noticed that.
You don't wanna take a flake off anything else.
Well, it ain't taking a flake. It's taking a whack.
And you'll say, oh, sure.
That could be a painful hobby.
Well, sometimes it's a blood sport. I hit it wrong, but it drove a flake to one side. So therefore, I have to start all over again.
So now it's an arrowhead now, right?
No, not yet.
It's getting
It's
there.
just a small knife. Just a small.
Well, they found 2-inch points in mastodons. So, and that was a Clovis point they found in a mastodon.
I sent that 22,000-year-old point off yesterday to get it passed.
Now, is a stone like obsidian or something easier to use?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Obsidian's a whole lot easier to work. And being able to hit this, if I even used indirect percussion on this, that would also make it easier. But that's another thing that I've not picked up is indirect percussioning.
You want to see this?
That one went. But if it went any further, as you can see where it went down there, if it would have dove any further down, it would have snapped this point. So now we have to start flaking.
Takes a lot of strength to do.
Yeah, a lot of strength, that's what I was thinking.
That's probably like that.
Probably.
You get to the typical danger zones.
I gave you his phone number, Mark. I lost your phone number.
Let's have some of that Suzanne Summers Stein do that thing now.
I gave you his phone number and you were gonna call him.
You know what, Mark, he's got that sharp
Yes.
blade in his hand
Good
right
point.
now.
Good point. Very good point.
He said,
And I, for one, is gonna turn my head.
he said, what is that guy's number? And I gave it to you.
Yeah, and I lost it, I
Natural
immediately
selection.
lost it, because I told you I wasn't where I was supposed to be.
Everybody. What's the arrowhead made out of?
What's that?
The one they just, that was
Obsidian.
And you're not doing anything.
Dave does this same demonstration at our gem show for everybody. And I know when I go get my list, there's gonna be like names on it, right? Right, Joe?
What about your list? You're on it. I'm on your list.
I've been on worse lists before.
Yeah.
They put on some of those points somewhere for the animal to bleed, well, it had that thing in it. Dave, Dave, what did they do to the rock to make it so the animal bled out?
It was the first Ginzu knife.
It's the first food?
Have you ever seen a Ginzu knife advertised? You know all the little ridges it's got in it?
Yeah,
That's what you see here.
and that makes them bleed out?
Yes, once that goes in, the end of the shaft is working as the animal's walking or running. And as it's working, this is slicing up inside of them.
Yeah. Pretty awful, huh?
Now, this is a crude point. But I'm gonna pass it around. It's very crude. That would be probably a Paleolithic style point.
So, what are these over here?
Those are slabs. Some of them are finished. The chert pieces here, those are bifaces. And I did the same thing to them as I did to that piece there. I worked both sides, but the slabs there, I've just taken some flakes off. And some of them are obsidian, some of them are glass. Well, obsidian is glass, but one is by God and one is by man.
You hear that, Dave? Tell them again.
One is by God and one is by man.
That was good, but
That's a piece of dacite that you have there.
where's the obsidian here?
I'm sorry?
This the obsidian?
Yeah. Hold that up towards the light.
They're both glass.
See
This
the
one
lines
is
running?
made by man, and this one is made by God.
See the lines running through it, Judith?
Yep. So this is glass and this is obsidian, which is made by nature, God. But they're both glass, right,
Yes.
Dave?
I guess just demonstrating the thinking.
Now, this piece I'm working on here now is a slab. You have less waste material, and it's a piece of dacite, which is in the obsidian family. And there's a prescribed method that I was explaining to Mark, that you just start on one side, you go all the way around it, and you flip it over and you do the other side. And your goal there is to reach the middle of this piece of material. And the reason you want to reach the middle is because you can see the flat spots here. You want to get these dull spots are called flat spots, and you want to get rid of that. And so every quarter of an inch or close thereabouts, you apply pressure down and then use your legs to squeeze it off. And that saves your wrist from having to turn your wrist.
What saves your fingers?
I'm sorry?
What saves your fingers?
You're just supporting it on the backside, and there's a slot down here, and the flake, because this is so hard, the rubber, it won't give like the leather does. The leather gives and allows the flake to travel. This here, you have to have a slot there, and so every once in a while you'll see me stomp and empty that out.
Hey Dave, have you done any of the Williston church?
Williston shirt?
Yeah.
Occasionally.
Just occasionally, yeah, because it's much greater than.
Yeah, it's really grainy.
But there's right up here. Oh,
But this is the first pass on the piece of day side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you just do all of
Matter
that?
of fact, when I checked before, it showed you clicked on it and opened it.
That's pretty cool.
And that's the thing about a slab and a piece of day side or obsidian. It's a lot easier to work than this chert. And yet, like I said, you don't have the waste product that you do with the chert. Now, not all of this is waste. You can use some of it, like this piece broke. I can still make a point out of this.
I can't see what you're
That's the
doing.
email address I have.
Are you going in the middle or are you going on the side?
On the side of it.
So it's I am happy at work.
And I press in and down, and right now I'm just pressing down because I don't want to drive a flake across here. I just want to get this, I want to get the square edge
I
off,
have in the database.
and I don't want to beat
I'll
on it.
change it.
So this is called stitching.
I am happy of.
I have stopped thinking about these things because I hadn't done anything in 2 years. And so you stitch it across the end, and that gives you something to
I'll
work
change it in
with.
the email list, that way you should
Yeah,
get it.
and I'll go, when I go home, I'll go on healing events and see if it's there. Maybe I wasn't
That's
thinking,
spunk.
because my piece is.
Here, I asked that.
Yeah, because that's the email that was
I
been on
said,
the
what's
club.
the black square?
The club
Did
list,
you
that's the
hold-
one I put in
This
there.
piece of rubber pad, and it,
I thought it was charcoal.
no,
I use a charcoal block to solder on.
right,
No, I got you.
but I put a metal pad on the back because I kept breaking too many points. And it stopped the flexing.
So much for taking me.
Because this rubber will, and it still flexes to a certain degree, but you've got to, like I say, cut a groove in there so that the flakes will come off, because otherwise, this rubber won't allow them to travel.
Yeah, I'll give,
And I'm not trying to get them to travel right now. I'm just trying to stitch them to
I'll get it
get
out to you
a base to work
tomorrow
with.
morning.
That's okay, if you already did them, it's probably there, I just didn't.
So now these tools you're using like this, this.
This is a copper nail, gunner nail.
Are those purchased then? You don't make them?
No, you purchase the nails. You can harden grounding rod
I'll
copper
change,
by
I'll change
twisting
the
it in
address in the
opposite
list.
directions. And the tighter the twist, the harder the copper. But why do that when it's cheaper and quicker, just buy it now.
All right,
We're done?
I was just gonna say, if you keep going, well, never
I'll be here
mind.
for the next 3 weeks.
Never mind, keep going, Dave. I don't know what, it was.
Well, in line.
I forgot what I was saying.
She was saying that she was going to start calling, before everybody leaves. Call for some numbers, and some things that
But I think we're probably pretty well done here, don't y'all think?
You,
You
that's
are.
up to you.
We're coming,
But I love that, I
We're-
love watching you do that.
we're coming up on
Oh,
45
she
minutes.
gets so
I
excited.
do.
Oh, you know, it's just such a turn on.
It
We
is.
could stay here